Chinese leader Xi Jinping put on a display of military might in Beijing today, while Russian leader Vladimir Putin and North Korean leader Kim Jong Un stood alongside him in solidarity, the three of them together for the first time. Some of China's newest and most powerful military hardware was on display during the parade, which the Chinese government said ahead of the event was to demonstrate China's ability to win future wars. A day of events in Beijing marked the 80th anniversary of victory over Japan in the Second World War. The Australian ambassador to China was absent, but former Victorian Premier Dan Andrews met Xi Jinping, while former Foreign Minister Bob Carr was also present at commemorative events. Bob Carr joined me earlier from Beijing. Bob Carr, welcome to 7:30.
Thank you, Sarah.
Daniel Andrews allowed himself to be photographed in a group shot with dictators and alleged war criminals, including one of the worst aggressors of the modern era, Vladimir Putin. Did you deliberately avoid those photos?
I certainly would have avoided them if they were on notice, possibility. When I accepted the invitation to come to the commemoration of China's enormously historically significant victory over the Japanese aggressor, the 80th anniversary of it, I was coming to the commemoration. The idea of the parade sort of grew up separate from that. And I made it clear to the Chinese ambassador that I wasn't here for the parade. I was here for the terrific meetings that I've been able to hold today with countries that are like-minded, not countries that are aggressors or oppressors.
Let me just follow up on that for a second, if I may. You say the parade came up separately. The parade was always the centrepiece of this event, and indeed you wrote a piece a couple of days ago in the Sydney Morning Herald saying, "Beijing invited me to this special celebration. Here's why I'm happy to go." There was no mention there of not attending the parade.
No, that was the commemoration. When the Consul General in Sydney invited me, I think it must have been back in April, it was to a commemoration, and with a sense of what Chinese history values, an invasion that started in Manchuria in 1931, the rape of Nanjing, which was the opening atrocity of World War II, 1937-38, I didn't hesitate for a second, because this Chinese story was a great part of the story of the victory of the Allies of 1945, 1944, 1945, and one of the great narratives of World War II with direct implications for Australia. The historian John Hurst said that because there were 1 million Japanese troops tied down fighting a Chinese resistance, that fighting the Chinese resistance, the Japanese Navy did not win its argument to be able to invade Australia. The Army said, we cannot spare the divisions.
Well, there's no question that that was a significant event, and I think it's fair that we should point out to viewers that, of course, as you know, it was the nationalist forces of Chiang Kai-shek, the Kuomintang, who defeated the Japanese, not the guerrilla forces of the Chinese Communist Party. But just to come back to my question, the name of the parade and the name of the commemorations today are all part of one thing. They share the same name. The Chinese government made clear that the purpose of the parade was to showcase the Chinese army, show how capable its technologies are, its forms of warfare, and its capability at winning future wars. So again, why would you endorse an event with such a stated aim?
No, I'm endorsing the commemoration of the Chinese victory over Japanese invaders in 1945. That was what the commemoration today was about. I've just come from the formal ceremony marking this event, and it celebrated a victory that can be fairly called a victory of the Chinese people.
Let's come back to the initial invitation and your acceptance of it, because the Chinese government laid out very clearly its purpose in holding all of these events today. They made their rationale public in talking about the need to display the Chinese army, Chinese military's capability in winning future wars. So coming back to that question, why would you want to endorse an event that had those specific aims?
Sarah, I didn't endorse it. In writing about why I was coming here, I didn't endorse it. I wrote an article spelling out the sense of history that drove me to respond positively to a Chinese diplomat saying this is a commemoration. When the parade was being held, I was sitting down with diplomats from European countries and people in think tanks and diplomacy from Southeast Asia, talking about our region, talking about how we can build peace and security. That's what brought me here. Do you think that I was excited by the idea of watching weapons from a stand? I wasn't. I came here because the ambassador promised to deliver meetings with Chinese think tanks where I could talk about the problems of peace and war.
Well, let me put this question to you, Bob Carr.
I'll be giving an address tomorrow at one of them.
I mean, it's clear, is it not, Bob Carr, that you could have had meetings like that organised at any other time that did not coincide with a massive display of Chinese military force whose aim was to demonstrate their capacity to win future wars?
Well, Sarah, today I had a meeting with the Japanese Prime Minister, who's an apostle of peace between China and Japan and has been all his career. I had a meeting, my first meeting, with the current Indonesian Foreign Minister. I had a meeting with two New Zealand Prime Ministers. Helen Clark, an hour ago, said to me this. She said, you and I wouldn't have picked this guest list. But she said, we've had the opportunity to mingle with people who are important to both our countries. And that's what I've done here, making a contribution, I hope, to what is a major Australian engagement with the People's Republic of China by respecting something as important to them, Sarah, as a centenary of Anzac or a centenary of Kokoda would be to us. Was
Dan Andrews naive, allowing himself to be photographed in the way he was in that group photo?
Listen, Dan Andrews can speak for himself. He's someone who's been battered to death by media hostility in his own state and gone on to win big majorities when he's put his case to the Victorian people. He can defend himself.
Did you discuss your attendance with the Australian government?
No, but I wouldn't. It's not required to. We're a democracy.
Sure.
And I mean, Anthony Albanese is going to the UN General Assembly next month. He'll sit there in a forum where Iran, Russia, China, North Korea are represented.
But are you suggesting that a visit by the Prime Minister of Australia to a body like the UN is the same as Bob Carr going to a commemorative event in China?
No, I'm making this point, that when you're in international fora, not in charge of the guest list, you can be taunted with being there with Dictator X or Dictator Y. As Helen Clark said to me, we wouldn't have come up with this guest list, but there are plenty of people who come from democratic countries with which we can engage. And she and I, John Key, another former Prime Minister of New Zealand, have done precisely that, and it was immensely useful. So
just to be clear, you told the ambassador or the Chinese embassy in Australia that you would not attend the parade ahead of today?
Yes. Yes.
When you watched the parade, what did you make of it?
Very specifically, let me underline that again. They were told, I made it clear, I'd accepted for a commemoration. The reasons are spelled out in that op-ed I wrote in for 9 papers. There's no expectation that I would be at the parade.
What did you think of the parade as you watched it?
Well, I didn't watch it.
Have you seen any of it?
I mentioned a moment ago that I was at a series of meetings with ambassadors of European countries here in Beijing. That was immensely valuable. And with people travelling with the Southeast Asian delegations. Good luck to the Chinese with their military parade. It's not what drew me here, and I didn't linger on it. I think I saw a bit on the TV screens as I exited those meetings I was at.
What do you mean by good luck to the Chinese with their military parade?
It's a jovial comment. I wouldn't put it on the top of your list of indictments.
Xi said today that the People's Liberation Army would safeguard territorial integrity, which is understood to mean gaining control over Taiwan. If China does make the decisive move over Taiwan that he has threatened, what should Australia do?
Well, I'm going to read from my DFAT briefing note that I was given as Foreign Minister, same DFAT briefing note that 2 coalition foreign ministers read from when they got this question. The first is, that's a hypothetical question. The second is the ANZUS Treaty is an obligation to consult. We maintain, in short, we maintain strategic ambiguity. Australia and the United States don't spell out what they would do in respect of a Chinese assault on Taiwan. Of course, we maintain the strong diplomatic position that there should be no resort to force over the Taiwan Strait.
Bob Carr, thank you very much indeed for joining us.
Thank you, Sarah.